So thank you, Megan. Thank you to all our partners. Megan was kind enough to mention, and thanks to everybody for putting together such a great initiative. Like all sustainability initiatives, we all work together to make things happen, and you can't see things come together, especially this time in our lives, as much as people coming together to make things happen. So thank you once again. My name is Davide del Brocco. I am the sustainability chef at Queen's Hospitality Services. I've been a chef on campus for 9 years, and I've been the sustainability chef from November of 2019. So we're looking at about 7 months. And within 7 months, I have learned and experienced quite a bit at Queen's Hospitality, and I've been able to take some of the resources that I have and apply those to sustainable outlooks, whether it's my role looking at food waste prevention, looking at waste diversion through packaging or local sourcing, more plant-based options on campus, or working with other departments and other people in sustainability for GHG emissions reductions, or even energy initiatives that cut back on our consumption at the university. So it's been quite intensive and really quite exciting. And I hope that within this webinar series, Sustainable Living Through Food, you'll find it as exciting, or at least some of these tips and points I make will get through and change a little bit of those lifestyle choices when it comes to sustainability. Like Megan had mentioned, this is the pre-cooking preparation. So pre-cooking preparation is just everything you do before you go for your shop. It also takes a look at the influence of COVID-19 on our daily lives and the time that we spend more at home now, with many people working from home, and the contact that we have and the need to be part of that sustainable community. I believe that being engaging and having conversations is key to moving sustainability forward. Not everyone is an expert, and everyone has so much to learn, as we do across the globe. So I think with these small community and small interpersonal relationships, we can really make that happen. So this pre-cooking preparation topic, the first in the series, I go through 7 points. And all 7 of those points are, of course, intermingled. They all touch on sustainability in one way or another, or even in a couple of ways. And a few of them also refer to the current global pandemic. So the first point that I always make, whether it's in my home kitchen or whether it's at Queen's University's very large industrial and well-oiled machine kitchens, the first thing we always do is take an inventory of what we have. Okay, so quite simply, you can either take pen and paper or your phone or even a mental note, and you look at the type of staples that you've got in the house. I always start with, whether it's at work or whether it's at home, I always start with the non-perishables. The non-perishables are the staples that you can always have there, and they'll really round out those meals or be the star in a meal when you're making your plan for the week. So things that I would consider are pastas, also quinoa pastas or rice pastas or those types of grains like barley. I always look at things like oats and granola, canned items or dried beans, things like that. Jarred items that last a little bit longer. Some cereals, maybe some dried fruits and nuts. In our house, because we are able to enjoy nuts, we have peanut butter. That becomes one of those shelf-stable items. But taking an inventory of what you have means that you're not just going to go out and buy extra of those items, because whether or not they are perishable or not, eventually you will have too much food, and that will lead to, of course, food waste. Food waste is an easy, sustainable practice to eliminate. So if you have too much food, you're inevitably going to waste it. However, we have a lot of solutions on how to do this, and it starts with your inventory list. That inventory list is going to itemize the things that you have that you always have, non-perishables, and things that you like to have. So most people nowadays are shopping less and less often. We have for years in our household shopped once a week. Some people now have extended it to even 10 days. I know in some European countries during their lockdowns, they went 10 to 14 days. How do they do it? How do we do it? How do I do it? Well, I make a list. It's really simple. I started with that inventory list. Now I make my weekly shopping list. Let's put everything into a weekly perspective here. So my weekly list always comes up with 2 columns. Here's an example of it here. The first column is the staples column, and the second column is the hopefuls column. We'll get into that part in a minute. However, with the staples column, that's where I wrote my non-perishable staples. Those are the things that I first start building my menus around. Knowing that I have pasta for a meal or beans for a good chili means that those are a couple of meals already taken care of. Maybe I've got some rice in there and I enjoy a good rice dish for lunch on a Wednesday. Great, I've got another meal taken care of. But those other staples are the other items that you constantly buy or are a regular feature on your list. Things like eggs, milk, lettuce, fruits and vegetables, of course, sometimes yogurt. The types of things that always hit my list are broccoli, apples, spinach is a big one. These are the things that are going to help round out those initial inventory items. These are the staples that are perishable. You look through your whole kitchen and that list is usually pretty long and usually pretty standard. Then I move on to my hopefuls list. And my hopefuls list are things that I don't buy all the time. They're the other things that are going to help to fill in those gaps for that Wednesday morning breakfast when I might like eggs and home fries. Sometimes those hopefuls are things that you would get together with friends and family. And unfortunately, these days when friends and family and home entertaining is put to the side, those items are going to show up less and less. But it doesn't mean I don't like them. It just means that I don't really need to purchase those right now. But I'm going to write down a few anyway. In our household, we like to make pizza every so often. We make our own dough, we get our own yeast, of course, which is a little bit less available these days. However, you can start your own yeasts. Regardless, I've put those types of items on my hopefuls list because I hope this week I can get into making a pizza for one of our meals. Also in our household, Parmesan cheese. So we buy a very fine Parmesan cheese that we enjoy putting on pastas or, with our eggs and adding to many of our dishes, but that's sort of an expensive item and we don't need to buy it very often. So once again, I put it on my hopefuls list. This hopefuls list can be long, it can be short, doesn't really matter. The important thing is that part of your list is really objective. So far, I've been the only one to put anything on this list. So my next point is including the household. Getting everybody involved in the food in the home means that everybody's going to be involved in the sustainable habits when it comes toward that food. They're going to be inputting their ideas of what we can have, what we like, what they don't like that I do, and trust me, that's a big point in our house. Things that are recipes and ideas that I've had for many, many years, things I've learned overseas and when I spent 5 years in Tuscany, and some dishes that I find are amazing and classic, and they don't really like it that way. They think they have to put their own spin on it. Regardless, these are objective. And this is when you're going to include the family in a conversation. Have everybody have an input, whether it's a housemate, a roommate, a spouse or partner, or children. You want to have their input as well. And you can invite them to add things like that Parmesan cheese that they can't stop eating. Or these items like, coconut milk for a special coconut soup, or one of those exotic dishes that they like. Or maybe some nacho chips and salsa for a nacho night. Either way, you're going to start writing these items down. And that conversation is going to take you to an eventual idea of what do we need and what don't we need. Maybe you've made some notations beside the ingredients of which day you're going to use those meals, or those ingredients for those meals. Which meals are already taken care of? Well, you make those little notations and something just doesn't fit. You ask, hey, that just doesn't fit this week. How about we move it on to next week? It's better for your pocketbook. But there's also another conversation that needs to happen here. And it's a good tip on sustainable dining. It's a sustainable dining talk. Realizing that you can eat a little bit more sustainably without completely overhauling your entire diet or those of the people that you share a home with is an easy talk to have. For example, my children often put chicken wings on this list. Chicken wings, though they enjoy them, is an easy target to change out a meat option for a more sustainable option. So we talked about it last time, and I said, well, instead of doing that, since we buy cauliflower and broccoli, how about we do the battering on the cauliflower and broccoli and have those instead of chicken wings? Or, I've got so much of this pasta here that I took on my inventory. How about we take out this chicken wings dish for this week and put in a delicious lasagna, which I know you guys like, with lots of vegetables and lots of cheese in them, or maybe a mac and cheese or something. Then these are the kind of conversations that I have in order to push our weekly consumption of meat down. It's 1 or 2 or 3 meals a week. It makes that 1 or 2 or 3 times difference. Whether it's small or it's a large, it's going to make an impact. And it starts the culture of sustainable dining. So sustainable dining is also flexitarianism. That's a new term that's becoming more and more popular. I mean, it's not that new, but it is becoming more and more popular in dining circles. And it is actually switching out only a few of those meat dishes for plant-based or more environmentally friendly foods. The meat spend in a shop is fairly high. Most of the time, when you're purchasing large quantities of meat, the impact on the environment is quite large. The numbers reflected to feeding our livestock with the agriculture that we have to feeding ourselves is 3 to 1. So it takes 3 times as much agriculture just to feed our food than it does just to feed us directly. That's an incredible environmental impact, not to mention the packaging and the emissions for transport and the emissions from the factories that need to produce them. These are businesses that can be done also locally with a little bit more eye to sustainable environment, to supporting our environment. So this culture of sustainability and switching out meals and changing things and saying, oh yeah, let's have this instead of that. I mean, I'm a chef, so it's easy for me to come up with a few ideas to switch out a couple of meals. Not that easy for everybody. And if I ask my children, hey, what's a good sustainable meal option, they wouldn't know what really to say. However, we do have resources. So my next point is, you're going to be looking up recipes. This recipe book, for example, is one of my favorites. I got it at the local Kingston Memorial Center Market a few years ago. It's actually written by Jeanette Haas, who I found out is a Queen's alumni and lives in Sydenham, Ontario, and grows quite a bit of vegetables and fruits and produce. So really good read. It's one of my recipe books. Of course, there are so many other opportunities to find recipes. You can use your technology, find recipes online, and share some recipes with families and friends. So recipe sharing is very popular right now. As a matter of fact, the other day, I was mentioning to some people, and I shared a recipe with some colleagues, and it's actually on the flyer at the end of this, the handout from this webinar series, from this webinar, and it's actually a Tuscan ribollita cinese. So, like I said, I spent about 5 years in Italy, in Tuscany, as a chef, learning different things, and I learned a classic recipe of one of my favorite dishes, and didn't realize it was plant-based until quite a while later when I started studying a little bit more plant-based dining. And this recipe, which I shared, is basically vegetables, beans, stale bread, so you're using up all those ends and things, and it's a classic recipe that can be found anywhere, on any platform. So I've shared that with some friends and family, and you can do the same, and you start to get some menu ideas. But I'm going to go back to the book. So when you've included your family in this talk, in this conversation, you can also include them in looking for the recipes and coming up with some ideas just by browsing the internet, which I know a lot of kids do that. They enjoy looking up things for information, whether it's through books. Books like this also have other information that's quite interesting. They've got menu ideas for months or seasons. They've got other resources or other books that are relatable. They have actual recipes, which I enjoy, and this one actually gets through to gardening and some tips on how to plan your own gardens. So there's so much more than just recipes in a recipe book, which is what I really like. But you can also look at things that you're used to eating. Like I said, meat production is so involved and so large, and it takes such an impact on our environment that many times looking for sustainable options through different cultures is an easy way. Many people enjoy going to restaurants. Unfortunately, these days, going to a restaurant is not possible. But that doesn't mean I don't still enjoy Thai food. Doesn't mean I don't still enjoy East Indian cuisine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of those resources and look up some of those cuisines and those dishes that I do like and see what they offer for vegetarian or vegan options. Many East Indian dishes are vegetarian or even plant-based. So you can look to those and try and open up a whole new world of sustainable dining options. It's quite large. Also remember, you can make pretty much anything into a soup or a salad, and that'll fill out the rest of those little meals during the week. So sometimes we can make a little game out of this, and this is what we do at home. Everybody gets their own little way of finding a recipe or some idea to switch out and say, oh no, yeah, okay, that's chicken, that's too many chicken, there's too many cuts of whatever. No, let's do beans. I love that. You know, those fajitas with that tofu and black beans. So they come up with these ideas. Everybody writes down a number of these, and then we put them together as a game and see how many of those ingredients are actually similar to those recipes. So now we're looking at recipes that include one ingredient for many dishes, or even just dishes that include the same ingredient. So in this recipe book that I was talking about earlier, I came up with one of my favorite recipes, which is pasta with arugula pesto. Arugula isn't one of those things that everybody buys all the time, but spinach is. Spinach is always on my list. I can easily make that pasta dish with spinach pesto, as opposed to arugula. Also, that spinach can be used in so many more things. You can put that spinach in that salad, is what typically we buy it for. Or I put it into my soups, which is what we buy it for. And we also make some eggs Florentine, or put it on sandwiches, inside wraps. There are so many things that spinach alone can do. That's just one ingredient. Other ingredients that I love, sweet potatoes. I know that Megan herself actually asked me about sweet potato chips. So it's quite simple. Sweet potato chips are 3 ingredients. They are sliced sweet potatoes, thinly sliced, a little bit of frying oil in a pan, take them out, drain them lightly, salt, put them into the oven to bake until crisp. Really easy. There's so many other applications for sweet potatoes. Mashed sweet potatoes. You can put them in a soup. You can definitely roast them and put them on salad or on the side of a nice other dish. So many other applications for food, like eggs, which once again is one of the staples in our house, they have an ability to be very versatile. So something I thought of actually this morning was a chef's hat. So a chef's hat has pleats. Many people don't know why it has pleats. Well, the old story is that for every pleat is a way you can cook an egg. It's a different way you can cook an egg. So all of a sudden that egg becomes eggs for quiche. Simple fried or over easy eggs. You can do omelets. You can make lasagna with eggs. You can make your own doughs, breads, pizza dough, anything you like with eggs. You can make your own pasta with eggs. Eggs are just so versatile, and there are so many ingredients that you're going to find on your staples list already. What's another benefit for finding recipes with the same ingredient? Well, you'll have less ingredients to purchase. So you'll have less ingredients in the house that will inevitably go to waste, which is what we're trying to avoid here. You're trying to find sustainable ingredients that you don't have 15 different types and you've only got 7 days worth of meals. It just doesn't make sense. What you'd like to do is try and find the ability to buy some of those products and use them a few times until it's all gone. Less food waste. It's also more affordable. And finding affordable solutions, this is the fun part, especially in our house, is trying to make things for yourself. Okay, so I understand and I appreciate this. My partner doesn't have the same wherewithal to make the same things that I would make. I would just take it for granted as a chef that I can throw together something. Whereas typically people think it's a little bit more difficult than it looks. It's really not that difficult. Once again, use your recipe sources, use your ingredients, and see what you can do with it. Let's take granola bars. Affordable solutions with granola bars. I had that granola as one of my staples at the beginning. I have a number of ingredients. I can make whatever granola bars I like. I look up a simple recipe that says granola bars, and it avoids me from buying packaged granola bars. Typically, when we go to do our shop, some people actually map out, one of my colleagues was telling me, they map out their trip to the grocery store so that they can get in and get out, especially in the face of this COVID-19, so that you have less exposure to the possibility of catching virus. But they map out their grocery store, but typically the old adage is you shop on the outside of the grocery store to avoid buying too many packaged products. Those packaged products is where it gets expensive, and you're buying packaging. So that's what really you're paying for, as well as the extra ingredients you weren't counting on having in your granola bars. Typically, these make your own type of things have 3, 4, 5 ingredients. They're quite easy to make. But when you look at the package that you were buying, there are a number of ingredients that most people, including myself, can't even pronounce. So avoiding those kind of situations, maybe making your own rice cakes, or in our case, in our home, my youngest daughter, who is 7 years old, makes these. These are dog treats. And typically the dog can hear it when I open the container. So they are made from whatever we have around the house. A few weeks ago, my youngest daughter went into the cupboard. She went into the fridge and she saw that we had some pumpkin puree left over, some applesauce we'd made, and some eggs in there. We were making some pumpkin muffins the week before. And she said, I want to make something with this. And then she thought, I want to make doggy treats, because the dog is always there looking for some sort of handout. So she looked up some recipes and she asked, hey, can I start making some stuff? We said, sure. So she looked up the recipe, just like we did. She saw what ingredients we had, just like we do. And she decided that she was going to make them. And guess what that happened? It made an enormous impact on the sustainable aspect of purchasing and packaging. So we didn't have to purchase those cookies anymore from the pet store or from the grocery store, and there was no packaging involved. We didn't have to buy that packaging, which unfortunately goes into the landfill. And there was a little bit more money saved on those extra ingredients that, hey, we already had at home. So those granola bars, the same situation, you can make your own. Those potato chips, those sweet potato chips I was talking about earlier, instead of buying a bag of those root vegetable beet chips, you can make your own. It's more affordable, you use less ingredients, and you actually get quite a bit more when you do make your own. So when you go to the grocery store, you're going to start seeing a little bit more impact on your pocketbook. And that impact, typically most people have a budget, but that impact will be many percents every week. So let's say it's 2% of the savings the first week. Maybe the second week you notice, hey, because I'm making my own, I've spent 5% less than I did last time. Or maybe on a $200 budget, I've only spent $170. I've got a little bit more money there. That's okay. Saving money is great, but what can you do to enjoy that food a little bit more? Local purchasing. Local purchasing is something I've always touted, been a partner of the Memorial Center Farmers Market and all the markets in the city for a long time. Typically, we do at least a little bit of shopping at the market when, unfortunately, the market is at its open air state. But we can still purchase locally. So you can take a little bit of that extra money saved. Sure, you can still save some, but maybe take a little bit, like 1.5%, and put it towards replacing something on your list with a local purchase. Typically, local purchases, you can peruse and you can buy, and you can talk to vendors, and they'll give you tips and they'll give you the best of their product. Well, they still always give you the best of their product. And right now you can actually order ahead of time and have a pickup or a drop off once a week. Those local products don't come from far away, so the transportation costs are a lot less. Typically, they're not in packaging, or if they are, it's usually reusable packaging. So you're not paying a premium for any packaging. You're also helping the local community, and you're growing our farms so that our food will come from closer than far away. It'll come from our community. You can still take advantage of the little bit of money saved by keeping it, by looking at the seasonal products that these vendors will obviously be ready to supply you with. Those few dollars saved, yes, sometimes those products are a little bit more expensive locally, but you've just saved more at the grocery store than you were going to spend. Also, the quality of the product that you get from local vendors and local suppliers is extremely high. And during the high season, the prices are extremely competitive. It's one of the best options to supporting sustainability within your community and asking questions and reaching out to other parts of the community for availability or information. Now, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you can join us in our next session. There will be some hands-on cooking, some examples of what to do with packaging. And I appreciate everybody for showing up, and thank you to everybody for organizing this. Have a great afternoon.